welcome to Around the Verse. I'm Sandy Gardner.
I'm Ben Lesnick.
This week in the ATV interview, Jared sits down with Senior Art Manager Adrian Banninga to discuss art sourcing on Star Citizen.
And in this week's ATV Behind the Scenes, the bug smasher himself, Mark Abent, returns to talk about Dataforge, a new tool we're using to improve Star Citizen.
But first, everyone wants to know what is happening with 2.2. Ben, tell us the deal with 2.2.
2.2 is almost there. We are getting ready for a PTU release. We have a number of candidates in process. As soon as internal QA signs off, we'll be able to put it online. We don't have a release date to give out yet, but it is in the not too distant future. Keep checking the comm link for updates, and we will have it out as soon as we can.
And with patch 2.2 comes our dedicated Squadron 42 packages, amongst other things.
Yes, the much ballyhooed package split has happened. The Squadron 42 package will launch alongside 2.2. So if you want to pick up just the base Star Citizen, that's available now, and you can pick up the Squadron 42 add-on for that. As soon as 2.2 goes live, we will make Squadron 42 base packages available as well.
This weekend, Star Citizen was featured on the BB series Click, with footage shot in the LA and UK offices. I received emails from cousins in Australia, friends in Ho Chi Minh. It was quite exciting.
It's pretty good. I heard from people all over the place too. It was a very fair report. I thought it gave a good picture of Star Citizen and what we're really doing here. Mm-hmm. And I got to fly the Hornet from Wing Commander that you see where he's blowing up a Kilrathi ship, so I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, and Hennessy was very happy that they spelled his name correctly. It was good. Check out the version.
Mm-hmm.
A crowd-funded title that's raised, well, an enormous amount of money. They've decided to do something quite unusual. They have their very own television studio here. A small team here produce online videos almost daily, filling in the audience on how the game's development's going.
Crowdfunding can be a scary thing. Crowdfunding is still a relatively new, frontier, and we're pretty much at the front of it.
Everything is geared toward the idea of we're pulling back the curtain.
Yeah.
And we're letting you get an inside look on everything.
And the week before that, we had our first official Bar Citizen in Montreal, which was very cool, with our friends from Turbulent and Behavior. Check it out.
Yeah, if you aren't in Frankfurt, Austin, Manchester, or Los Angeles, Montreal is the place to be to meet Star Citizen developers. And it sounds like they had a good event. Jared and I actually got to go in via Skype and answer questions. So thanks for having us, and we hope you all had a good time.
Now let's check in with our studios from around the world in this week's News from Around the Verse.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to LA. I'm Eric Kyron Davis with
Adrian Banninga.
And thank you for joining us this week.
You're welcome.
We asked Adrian to come out for many reasons. Some we'll cover right now. Others will be covered in a longer Around the Verse piece you did this week, right?
Yes.
You got to get a long chat with those guys.
I know.
They snagged you in the office in the studio and talked to you.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we got a few updates for you. A couple things that are happening around the studio. One, we're working hard on the Caterpillar concepts. There's some additional concepts we need to do for Caterpillar. We've talked about this in the past. Gurmuk's been working feverishly on this, and they're coming together really, really well. On the design side, we're also working on the design doc. We talked about shields last week. We're still working on shields. Chad has been working heavily on that. We've also got some folks working on some of the character work. We've got some character concepts happening, as well as some BDUs and some other character work with our concept artists, Jeremiah and Omar. I was out. I decided to break my hand last Friday, so when he
Always
came
a wise
out,
decision.
yeah, I thought it was a good idea to break my hand. But now that I'm back in the office, we're digging some of that stuff out. I know he's working with Mark Hong and a couple other folks. So that's it from LA. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, I'm Eric.
And Adrian.
All right, see you guys next week.
Howdy y'all, welcome to the UK, and for those of you who are a little bit confused right now, Jake's actually visiting the office over here at the moment, so we thought it'd be fun to bring him along and say hello. Hi Jake.
Hey guys, welcome from sunny England. I'm here visiting the UK all week and meeting up with a few of the producers out here. It's nice to meet everybody in person and people you see and hang out with over Skype all the time, but you never actually get to meet in person. So it's a nice thing to get to see people face to face. It's definitely a good thing. We're talking a little bit about scheduling and stuff with Tom, and lots of interesting, intriguing Microsoft project work. I'm sure you're all very interested to hear about, but Yeah, and then talking with the live production team to talk about, each as we plan for each release, there's lots of production practices that go into that, and we have to be really in sync between the European time zones and the U.S. time zones. So there's lots that goes into that for sure.
Nailing those handovers.
Yeah, they take a while to put together, but they're definitely important to know what blockers are still existing and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, that's been working well, and yeah, I think these kinds of meets where actually sort of sit face to face, you do find you get a lot more out of it, don't you? Just being able to sit alongside each other and go over some stuff in depth.
Yeah, you think of things when you're walking through the office and you see somebody and you're like, oh yeah, I need to talk to that guy. Like you don't get that visual reminder when you work remotely, so it's nice to have that. Yeah.
So what else is going on? You obviously still going over the things you were championing us then?
Yeah, right. Yeah, so we got updates for persistence and shopping. So persistence, we're talking with Turbulent now to talk about their part that they're going to play in that. So Jason Ely, our lead server engineer, is talking with those guys about creating a stateful communication communication between the platform and the backend server. So we're talking through that and coming up with a schedule and creating estimates for that work. And for shopping, we're kind of settling on a pricing formula. So we'll have our clothing in Kasaba Outlet. Each of that has to have a cost associated with it. So we're creating a pricing formula and then determining what exactly we're going to be putting in that store when it first releases. So we have a few different clothing options, plus variants for each of those options.
You snazzy items in there.
We got zoot suit, all that.
Skeleton's gold shirt.
Skeleton's gold shirt is a must-have, I will say. I don't know if that'll be for the first release, but it's in the backlog. So, yeah.
Right, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, that just about wraps it up for us here in the UK, and we'll see you in the verse.
All right, see you guys.
Hey guys, Brian Chambers from the Frankfurt office. This week, so far, we're basically gathering all the information that we had from the meetings with Aaron and Chris and a few guys last week. When they come out here and we have focused time with them, it really does pretty much involve all disciplines to some extent. If I read through some of the meetings just to give you guys a little bit of insight at kind of some of the stuff we discuss, although I can't tell you everything we discuss. But we met with Cinematics, going over their art schedule, the support and how that's going to go back and forth with the UK and Frankfurt. Looked at progress of certain blocked out scenes. We talked about sign-off process and protocol and how we're going to do that to get sign-off. Core engine, we looked at the full schedule pretty much for 2016. Chris sat down with the other TDs and really structured it out, put priority on what we should focus on and what takes a little bit less priority and so on. A lot into the procedural tech with the planets and how we're driving that, how we need to build the art, what those standards are. Other stuff we can't talk about, and yes, I'm reading through a list right now. Also some discussion on asteroids and some stuff we have going on there and how those are scalable, and that's going to be interesting once we actually get that into players' hands to beat that up. AI, a lot of discussion on AI. The AI in this game is pretty thick, and we're really kind of pushing boundaries on AI and interaction. So how you can play with AI, how you can converse with AI, how they interact, and positively and negatively, and we have a lot of terminology we're throwing around internally, but I don't want to give it all away because I'm not quite sure what was put out there yet or not. But let's just say there was a lot of discussion that went over AI, characters, ships, and really looking at the overall AI architecture and clarifying what for PU and what those needs are, and Squadron 42 and what those needs are, and what overlaps, and what's the best, most way to build up these systems that are mature, that'll be scalable. Production, I think we talked about a little bit last week. We pretty much went over the head count and our growth of what we're going to be, where we see ourselves, moving forward in the next 6 months and a year. And also looking at kind of evaluating what disciplines we have and how we're staffed and where we may need more and so on. Design went over a lot, looking at mission systems, lot based on Squadron 42. We also had Tony out here from Austin, so did a lot of digging in on PU, looking at the prefab systems, looking over the piping prototype. Had Todd Pappy in here a few weeks ago talking about that, so that was far enough along to be able to look at and kind of get an understanding of what's going on there. Also dug in through high-level PU plans, FPS plans, and so on. Reviewed effects that are currently going on and how that's progressing, and so on and so on and so on. So we're getting a lot of traction here. It's been cool as the team's building up. We're kind of finding our place a little bit more and getting some more structure, which is great because it adds clarity to the team and so on. So yeah, as always, again, thank you to all the backers. It's been great hearing good response about the team we have here in Frankfurt because we really dig what we're doing, and it's good to see people, liking what we do as well. So globally, this is an awesome team between the UK and Austin and LA. I mean, everybody's really kind of coming together to pull this off, which is really cool. So thanks, and see you next week.
As always, a big thank you to all of our studios from around the world.
Next up, Jared's down with Senior Art Manager Adrian Banninga to talk about Star Citizen.
Take it away, guys.
Thanks, guys. On this week's ATV interview, we're sitting down with Senior Art Manager Adrian Banninga. Adrian, how you doing, man?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Good. I didn't slaughter that, did I?
No.
All right, thanks.
It's acceptable.
All right. Now, Adrian, you are the Senior Art Manager.
Yes.
And you work out of the UK office.
Yes.
So start us off, just tell us real quickly, what does a Senior Art Manager do?
Basically the guy that helps the art director make sure that the art team is running smoothly and that the tasks that are set for them are being done. And that also the production doesn't try and kill them.
Okay. We've had a few close calls over the years. It's all right. Yeah. What kind of things do we use art outsourcers for?
It depends what our needs are, basically. We use them for ships concepts, characters, animations, creating some ships we've done in the past as well. Just whatever our art needs are at the time.
Okay. And like for right now, we've got art outsourcers working on the Aspera Prowler.
Well, the Prowler is not in the works right now because that's kind of on hold. We've decided to go back and we needed to pick up where the Tavaran race was first, get that concepted properly. We've adapted the ship's pipeline so that we're doing things a little bit more structured than I think we were used to in the past. So, getting the race all figured out, getting their style guides done is one of the first things we need to do before we concept a ship that they've made. And then from there on, we just move forward with more ships from that race.
Gotcha. Who's working on the Tavaran now?
We've got Mark Skeleton directing Chris Olivier to work on the initial Tavaran race concepts. That's happening right now. Gotcha. And then, once we have a rough design down, that'll go to Chris to obviously look at and pick the ones that he likes. And then once we have that, we'll take it further and refine the shapes more.
Gotcha. And then when we're happy with the Tavaran, that's when we take the Prowler and assign it to an art outsourcer.
Well, that's when we'll basically, when the Tavaran race has been defined, then our art team, our concept team will go and define the style guides for them, like what kind of clothing do they wear, what kind of designs do they have, what is the architectural structure that they have in their civilization based off the lore that the writers come up with. And then from that, we'll go and design the ship. Yeah.
Cool. And you're here visiting for the week from the UK. What are you here in LA to do?
go over the outsourcing that we currently have going, see how we can improve the process that we have, keep up with the reviews that we need to do with the outsourcer that are doing stuff for us, and also assess any future needs of outsourcing we have. See, early on what we might need done in a month or two's time, and then how we can accommodate that.
Gotcha. It's game development is iterative. So you're always trying to evaluate and reevaluate your processes. So there's always a way to make things better.
Yep.
Where'd you come? How long have you been with Cloud Imperium Games?
I started here 7.5 months ago.
All right, and where'd you come to before that? Where'd you come to us from before that?
A varied background, but before that I was working on my own game. It was an indie title called Dark Out.
Dark Out?
Yeah. Okay. And it was basically a little game based off of Terraria, set more in the sci-fi universe. It had a light and dark mechanic to it. You could kill shadow creatures and hunt them with lights and that kind of thing. So I tried to do a different spin-off from what the guys did with Terraria. Sandbox games were very popular at the time I started it. It was a longer process than I thought. But working with people over the internet and not getting paid and promise of royalties and so forth, it makes it more difficult than having a fully funded game.
Yeah. How long did you work on that?
About 3 years.
And is that available now, or?
Yeah, it's available on Steam.
Well, cool. Well, Dark Out, available on Steam if you guys are curious. We'll see what people say. Sorry.
We've gotten good feedback on the visuals. It's a really good looking game. So yeah.
Cool. Now, we were... I won't keep it too much longer, but we were talking earlier. You mentioned that you sailed across the Atlantic Ocean when you were younger.
Yeah.
We were trading stories, and I'm like, I went to space camp when I was 10. He's like, yeah, I sailed across the Atlantic. Yeah, so you sailed across the Atlantic from Cape Town to the Caribbean, you said?
Yes.
And how long did that take?
It took about 3 months.
Why? Not why did it take 3 months, but why did you...
My parents got this crazy idea into their head when I was about 16 that they wanted to build a boat and go sailing across the world. And I was all on board for that. Who wants to go to school when you can go sailing? So we ended up building our own boat in our yard. And when I was 19, we were finished. And we went sailing. And, it took us 3 months to get from Cape Town to the Caribbean. We actually started off with a nice Cape Town storm. So that was an adventure on its own. But the rest, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was an awesome adventure to go through.
There's something to be said for somebody who's built their own boat being involved in our ship pipeline. I think
that's true. I haven't thought about it that way.
Just putting that together, it's like that's cool. You might have some insights that others might not. So that's very cool. Adrian, won't take it. Thanks for taking the time to sit with us. Won't keep you any longer, man.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot. All right, guys. Back to you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Did you know that Adrian once sailed across the Atlantic from Cape Town to the Caribbean?
No, why would I know that?
I don't know. I don't know why it's in script.
It took 3 months.
It took 3 months, apparently.
Okay.
Yes.
No, put this whole thing in. I want to see this whole segment, including this part, in the episode, so people understand.
See, I just read what my line says. That's all I do.
See, people think, oh, they're getting trolled and they're fighting with people on the internet and there's problems with Star Citizen. No, Jared's script is the problem with Star Citizen.
Right. Coming up next, Mark Abent returns to Around the Verse with a look at Dataforge, the new tool we're using to make Star Citizen even better in this week's ATV Behind the Scenes.
Here I thought Dataforge was what Dr. Soong used to make his androids.
Thanks, guys. On this week's ATV Behind the Scenes, we're sitting down with gameplay programmer Mr. Mark Abent, and he's going to take us through a brief tour of a new tool that we're using here at Cloud Imperium Games called Dataforge. So Mark, how you doing, man? Welcome back to Around the Verse.
It's good to be on the, well, I don't think I've been on Around the Verse in a long time.
Not since you went rogue and started your own show. But no, it's good to have you back. Mm-hmm. Now, Dataforge, let's just start at the beginning. What is Dataforge?
Well, one thing I noticed, do I look at you or do I look at...
You can look at me.
Okay. Because, all right. Sorry about that. I just wasn't sure where I should be looking. Because I noticed the cameras are all here and I'm looking this way.
Sorry, we'll use this. We're just waiting on you.
I'm good. Oh, what was the question again?
It's just...
Let's see what he has to deal with all the time.
Yeah. All right, so start us off at the beginning. We're just leaving all this in, by the way. What is Dataforge?
All right. So Dataforge is essentially our answer to solving all of our, I guess you would call it our saved data, our metadata, through XML, through, I don't know, actually it's just XML at the moment. Trying to get rid of, having all these XMLs that get parsed every which way throughout the engine, and just have one central location where all of our data gets set, modified, and stored.
Gotcha. Now, CryEngine uses XML by default,
Yes.
which is why we've been using XML.
Yes.
Why is it important to us to move away from that and centralize the data?
So XML is very error prone. I could modify one thing and now that whole thing's broken. This has happened quite a bit with our ship XMLs, where you add an extra comment, because I don't like this, but CryEngine's way of parsing comments, you can't have a comment within a comment, and if you do, that XML just breaks. So you could have simple things as that, or a double quote, or a wrong thing here, and now your ship is vanished, and it's like, oh no, what did I just do?
Gotcha.
And especially becomes error prone when you have guy over here working on something, guy over here working on something, they both commit and merge, and it just becomes a mess.
Gotcha. And of course, the game that we're making is a bit bigger than than the scope of what CryEngine was originally designed for. So I think we're moving into an area now where XML just isn't robust enough.
Yeah, it was fine in the beginning when you had one person like Calyx working on it, but now we have a dozen studios all working on the same thing. It just becomes a nightmare.
Yeah. 4 internal studios and outsources, guys. We didn't expand to a dozen studios last night. Not tell anybody. There'll be a thread. There'll be a thread.
Yeah.
Now, I forgot where I was going to go with that now. Oh well. So CryEngine was it's an in-house tool created by who? Ashley.
It was created by Ashley Canning, and I believe it was also David Gill. Ash is the main guy working on it, but David also helped support, some of the features here and there, from what I was told.
And Ashley started on this almost a year ago, year and a half ago?
He came on the project about 2 years ago, right around the time when the UK office just started up. He wasn't originally planned to work on this. I think he was going to be a gameplay programmer. And then about a couple months after he came in, we needed a solution like this, and Dataforge was the answer. We didn't know what it was going to be, but we needed someone to work on it, and Ash was like, "I'll do it."
Gotcha. So why don't you take us through? Show us an XML, and then show us what Dataforge can do for us.
Sure. So let me pull over a simple XML. Oh, come on. Move to new instance. So here we have a 20 millimeter round of ammo that I'm not sure which gun, I think the Gatlings use this. And it's actually split in two. We have the design view, and then we also have, which we call the interface, which is the graphics view. We had problems where designers and artists wanted to modify things. They would stomp over each other's work. So we ended up splitting it with this interface system where this is the design stuff and this is all the visual stuff, lights, lasers, graphics.
So even something as simple as a bullet had 2 different XMLs.
It had 2 different things.
All right.
The other reason why they had 2 was we used to use something called Script Monkey. It was something I wrote where in Excel, you basically had the names of the projectiles and then some properties, and would auto-generate the XML. Now, when people go in there and just start modifying things without using that script, when someone reruns that script, all the settings would be lost. And the artist didn't know about that thing at the time, and it was never set up. So artists would go in, add some particles, change the light color, and then the designer would rerun the script. It would flush out all the changes and be like, what happened to my changes? It's like, oh no.
Artists, man.
So we wanted to keep the design being able to use that batch scripting. So, you know, you could go on an XML and change all the design damage and stuff like that. So they wouldn't have to go through every single XML. But we also still wanted artists to change the XMLs because that's the way they wanted to do it. So we came up with this two-way split system. And unfortunately, we now have double the XMLs for, you know, the design version and the graphics version. And it still gets broken because people interchange things once in here. And we actually stopped using ScriptMonkey because it just became horrible to maintain one Excel versus XML. Everyone skipped the Excel and went straight to the XML. And till this day, there's some fun conflicts.
All right. Now show us what Dataforge can do for us then.
So with projectiles, I actually moved them over to Dataforge. We're no longer using XML. This is the old system. Instead, we're using Dataforge. Dataforge is a nifty, it basically stores all of our data for game modes, for conversation systems, to characters like clothing, we're going to move into here. But specifically for our projectiles, we have this, we call it kind of like a template. So we create this template, and it has all the properties we want of this particular bullet. So we set it up to be, you know, here's a bullet. We set it up so that it has damage, it has lifetime, it has, you know, some sounds, some effects. And then, you know, we're gonna have a bunch of bullets that are gonna share the same properties, but we don't need to copy all the information over and over again. So Ash came up with this system called the variant system, and you could literally right-click and create a variant, which, for all intents and purposes, it copies the master, unless you change things here and there. So you could create, like this template, create a variant, like these guys, and change the damage.
Gotcha.
But that's still tedious to designers, and they love XML, so we extended it even more. So where's my XML? In the spirit of ScriptMonkey, when you could define the variants, and you could define certain properties, and these properties could be imported into each of the templates. So my master template, as you can see, I could define my size, my lifetime, my speed, and these are all variables that are defined in that Excel sheet. So I can literally create new ones or remove them. But the beauty of this too is an artist doesn't necessarily have to use this particular Excel sheet to change the effects. They could go into the required variant and they could start modifying and adding particles and that's specific for that variant. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Okay.
Now it will get tricky. Well, actually the one good thing too is if a designer decides this is gone, it will be removed and now the artist will notice it is gone so he doesn't have to add the effect anymore because it doesn't exist.
Gotcha.
We also lock the file so one person can modify this at a time.
Now, it should be noted, we've got a list here of all these different things like physical damage and speed and whatnot. These are not final values, people. Don't.
No.
This was set up for the demonstration here.
Yes.
Don't get too excited. So,
I literally ran a script to auto-generate these properties. Yeah. When I converted over the system, none of these are the actual values. They're going to get passed off to the designer to fill in the real values.
Somebody will still screenshot this and post it up there like they're real things.
Yeah.
All right. So besides, you said besides bullets, we've got, or besides ammo rather, we've got all kinds of things. We've got the conversation system. I see game levels in there.
Yeah, we have properties for game levels. Certain things, you know, if we have to add a certain flag to disable something, like, I don't know, you can't shoot in Racer, we add a bool into here and then we update all of our fun little scripts.
Now, Dataforge isn't just a fancy tool for creating XMLs. It's actually, we're storing the data differently than XMLs now, right?
Yeah, so on the very first phase, everything gets stored out as just XMLs. That's just the save information. This is only on the designers, or I should say on the developer side. When it finally gets out into the public, it gets stored into a binary blob.
Okay.
So what that means is when we're actually in the game and everyone's playing, we don't have to parse in XML every time we spawn a projectile, every time we spawn a ship. Instead, we have that information somewhere already in memory, and we just grab it. It's so quick.
Because, I mean, we're talking milliseconds here, but when you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people playing a game and whatnot, milliseconds matter.
They matter tremendously. I mean, when we have, dozens of people, dozens, good word, I could use that now, right? Dozens?
Dozens?
Yeah, dozens.
Yes, if all things go right. If all things go right.
Well, yeah, if you have dozens of people and they have a Gatling gun that shoots like 900 rounds a minute, you're going to be parsing a bunch of XMLs, which we don't want. Well, if we have the binary blob, all those projectiles go to that one source of information, pull it, and then they're good to go.
Gotcha. And so we store those blobs up on a server.
Right now, they're all stored on our dedicated servers, but sometime in the future, we could have a centralized server where all the other servers could pull that information. And with Dataforge, we actually have the ability to hot load. So we could change our binary blob to some other binary blob, and it would reflect all the changes. When we have that now, and I'll show an example later, but sometime in the future, we'd probably have a central server where all the other servers could pull it from. So we can, balance things on the fly.
Is binary blob the official term?
It's used everywhere internally, so I think that's what we're calling it.
Right. Now, changes made here will parse out into the game, right?
Yes.
So can we see an example of that? Maybe
sure.
Can we alter a projectile?
Yeah.
Or something? Oh, look, you have a gun.
I have a gun already.
It's like this was planned.
Oh, gee, I wonder if I hit this button. Look at that, it shoots.
Right. Let's say that going a couple times. All right.
So I have a little quick gun here that shoots a couple projectiles when I tap the button.
Right.
And this particular projectile, I'm using the 20 millimeter ammo, and the speed is kind of insane.
Right.
And what I could do here is add a little decimal point, save the Excel sheet. If I could drag Dataforge, tell it to refresh, and now it shoots a little bit slower. Pew! It kind of dips down. That's only because I'm in a gravity box, just to illustrate it. So, yeah.
We're all in a gravity box at some point.
Exactly.
All right, I want to throw you an audible here. Slowing down is fine. Can we change the projectile to something completely different, like a ship, maybe?
Yeah, I think I know what ship we could change that to.
All right.
So let's go back to Dataforge, and let's change our geometry. So I'm going to get rid of this material because that changes our colors on our projectiles, and they all share from this solenoid. So what I can do, I can change this guy. Let's just say, let's change it to an M50. Save that guy out, refresh everything, and now I'm shooting M50s.
Justin, add some sound effects. Let's see what sound an M50 makes when it shoots.
Pew, pew, pew.
All right. Let's change that back before I get in trouble.
Nah, I think we should keep it.
Well, Mark, thanks so much for giving us a brief tour of Dataforge. This is an incredibly important tool, a year and a half in the making now. It's gonna store all of our data for ships and weapons and our game levels, and it's exciting to be able to shave off those milliseconds from having to parse stuff and to store everything dedicated on dedicated servers. So thank you so much, man.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Back to you. Seriously, fix the ship.
I want a gun that shoots M50s.
You change that back?
Yes.
No.
Our very own Gurmik Basine recently finished teaching a 3D concept class, and his students created a single-seater fighter ship as a class project.
I like that there's a world in which there's such a thing as spaceship class, by the way. But Gurmik is really proud of the work his students did. It's all heavily inspired by his work and Star Citizen, of course. So we offered to share some of the designs on the show. These are not ships for Star Citizen, but who can turn down a cool spaceship no matter where it's from?
Check them out.
Hey everyone, it's Gurmuk Basine here. So the purpose of the class was to get people comfortable with exploring concepts in 3D. One of the unique things here that I do on Star Citizen is design ships in full 3D concept. And I wanted to share my technique with people who are interested and get people excited about exploration and trying things out in 3D. So the purpose of this course was to do a single-seat fighter ship similar to the Gladius. I wanted it to be for Aegis, since that's one of our more beautiful manufacturers in the game. And I wanted the single-seat fighter because it's a little bit easier to do. The course was 10 weeks long. And most of these students, actually I think all the students, had never done 3D concept before. So this was their first time, even for some of them, first time using 3D, and the first time creating something of their own in 3D. But overall, the purpose of this was to get comfortable with designing a Star Citizen-esque ship in 3D from scratch, and I think everyone who turned in a final project did a really great job.
And now it is time for this week's MVP. Bend the envelope, please.
Da, 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 da.
Dun, dun. MVP award goes to Ghost. Yay!
A ghost!
For his video, What is Star Citizen? The full explanation.
It's pretty much impossible to boil Star Citizen down into 18 minutes, or so I would have thought, but Ghost does a pretty good job. Here's a clip.
Chris Roberts started a company called Cloud Imperium Games, and they announced that they were working on a space sim called Star Citizen. They started a Kickstarter for it with the goal to raise $4 million. By the end of 2012, they reached all stretch goals and raised $6.2 million in crowdfunding alone, which broke all crowdfunding records for a single game at the time.
Congratulations, Ghost. You are this week's MVP.
Raise the roof.
And now here's your art sneak peek.
Be sure to tune in to Reverse the Verse tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific on Twitch. We'll be answering your questions about Star Citizen. We'll be talking about that art sneak peek, and we'll be telling you what we had for lunch.
Or what we didn't have for lunch.
Yes. Check it out tomorrow.
And of course, thank you to all of our subscribers for making this show possible. We will see you next week on Around the Verse.
Around the Verse.
It's a low-carb diet. Join our social channels if you are just new to Star Citizen and you would like to keep updated. Besides the comlink and the forums, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we are on Twitter. Join this YouTube channel, and that's also for Squadron 42 as well as Star Citizen.
Yep, all these things. Just more ways to keep up with the team.
Visit Welcome to the neighborhood.
After the merger and the rebuild, there is no public information on the processing plant. Terra Mills has locked down everything. They can't handle the scale. Whatever they put into Benny's does not come from Bremen. I tapped into a few local comm arrays for a few days. All the holes in the system are carrying weight, not just the ones going off. I have all the recordings in a safe place. Their cargo manifests are a mess. I tracked a couple of whole E's to their origin. Wait. You need to leave now. Maybe at Gundo Shipping Hub, Crusader, Stanton System. I'll have everything.
Warning. You are trespassing on Kovalek's private property. This Kovalek shipping hub is currently closed to the public. We apologize for the inconvenience. Help!